Hello, everyone. This is Catherine Chepkorir, and with me is Agnes Ngeny. We are students at Indiana Wesleyan University. Of our interest in this study is Christ-centered followership. The study utilizes a qualitative design to explore the divine calling in followership and also focuses on lived experiences of two biblical characters. And the finding reveals that individuals who hear and obey divine followership get transformed and bear the cost and impact the lives of others too. And based on extant literature and scriptural exegesis, the study has the following sections. We'll have the introduction. We also have the methodology, the discussion, and implications for practice.
Introduction. Over time, followership research has shifted from leader-centric to follower-centric perspectives, especially in the Western world. The trend in Africa is yet to shift, as scholars have pointed out that the influence of differing cultural norms, religious beliefs, and associated practices, combined with gender, age, and ethnic networks, shape emerging African leadership and followership practices. Of greater concern is how evangelical scholars address leadership issues and mention followers only as passing, with little attention to God's involvement in followership agenda. This oversight could be attributed to prevalence of self-oriented and gift-centered leadership models. Self-centeredness is a consequence of distorted relationship between the Creator and humanity. God calls individuals to follow him as he restores the broken world into its original intent. When individuals listen, obey, and follow God's leading, they find meaning in their calling. Followership from a God-centric perspective is a process whereby individuals accept the call of God in their lives and find meaning and accomplish God's purpose. To advance research about God's involvement in followership agenda, this study explores the impact of divine call on individuals who hear the call of the Lord and obediently respond to follow him. The question for this study then is, how does divine calling impact individuals who hear the call of God and obediently answer, "Here I am, send me"? What does it mean to accept the call and follow? What does following obediently entail?
And to take us deeper on this is a review of the literature based on the four typologies presented by Salzenik, Kelly, Jalef, and Kellerman. Salzenik categorized follower types in two axes of dominance, submission, and activity passivity. Kelly furthered that typology and emphasized the motivations of followers and follower behaviors in two axes, related to independent critical thinking and dependent and critical thinking, and active passive for kind of followers. And based on the experience that Ira Jalef had, he came up with another typology that talked about courageous followership and has two dimensions. The first dimension refers to the level of support given to the leader by the follower, while the second dimension addresses the willingness of followers to challenge a leader on critical issues. And Kellerman took a political perspective and designed a typology that differentiates followers regarding the level of engagement and how they can act as agents of change. Having looked at the different typologies, there is a gap that needs to be addressed. As these themes neither recognize divine authority nor relational processes between humanity and the deity. This study introduces a biblical model of followership, which recognizes the existence of a higher authority involved in the relational process with all humanity.
The Christian worldview teaches about a God teaches about a God-initiated calling where individuals use their gifts to serve where he directs according to his purpose. Rodin posited that it is only by knowing God in Jesus Christ that individuals can embrace the call and joyously pay the cost of God-centric followership. So the call is the highest good, the ultimate end, the meaning of life. And over to Catherine to discuss the call.
And just before we get to the call, we want to talk about the methodological approach that this study is going to take. This study is a qualitative type that also presents an exegesis of Philippians chapter 2. The study also assesses the cost of followership in the New Testament using intertextual references. And of interest is the life of Paul and Jesus. Now, talking about the call, based on the literature and the scripture, it is important to know that there is no calling without a caller. And answering the call is the road to purpose and fulfilled life. Primarily, God calls individuals to belong to him. And at a secondary level, he calls individuals or invites people to serve him. And the calling of the Lord is highly relational. Divine calling has an interpersonal connection and communication that is initiated by God and therefore demands human attention and response. How about the cost?
Divine calling comes with a cost. In Luke chapter 9 and verse 23, Jesus says that if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Having the mind of Christ involves the resolution and determination of the mind and carrying the consequences thereof. The study of followership involves an investigation of the nature and the impact of followers and following in the leadership process. The relational-based approach of followership is understood from a social constructivism perspective that argues that people create meaning about their reality as they interact with each other. Empirical evidence from studies on African management show that African leaders tend to derive their personal goals from a complex set of sources, categorized into self-induced and culture-induced goals. Self-induced goals come from the individual's personality, ambitions, and expectations, whereas the culture-induced goals result from demands and expectations from institutions such as family, clan, ethnic communities, and other associations. Followers are key determinants of the leader's performance. Research on influence tactics show that followers are intentional and strategic in their use of strategies to shape and define their behavior, the behaviors of the leaders. However, in a Christ-centric followership, followers seek to assume responsibility for the common purpose. Followers need the courage to support the leader and organization. When followers seek organizational goals, they invoke a combination of rational and non-rational tactics. Responding to divine call, however, involves rising above the tactics to embrace complete dependence on the overall supervisor, who is God, the caller. And looking at the implications for our study, more traditional views followership as passive and obedient are more likely to be complicit to unethical actions of leaders by being more willing to go along with unethical requests. The typologies that we looked at prior points to followers being passive, conformist, who just follow the motivation of the leaders. Followers, however, who respond to a divine call enables them to experience the grace that teaches followers to say no to ungodliness and to live a self-controlled life. By answering the call of the Lord, that becomes the ultimate why for living, the highest source of purpose for human existence. And we deeply appreciate the opportunity then to be able to talk about followership. Thank you.
Thank you.